Recording in progress.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Mercy Correa, and for me, it is a pleasure to welcome you, those who are online and those who are here in person in Panama City. We're here to know a little bit more about the International Financial Forum for Latin America and the Caribbean 2026, how to position the region in the global stage, an event organized by CAF, Latin America and Caribbean Development Bank, with the support of the Panamanian government. It will be hosted on 28th and 29th of January in the Panama Convention Center. We now invite you to share your comments and engage with us on social media at Agenda CAF and Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter and Instagram. And now I want to invite Sergio Diaz Granado to the stage, Executive President of CAF. Good morning, everyone. It is a pleasure to be here once again to present this new version of the forum. First, I want to greet Javier Martínez Acha Vázquez, Minister of Foreign Affairs from the Republic of Panama, Ms. María Eugenia Herrera, Minister of Culture, Ms. María Gabriela Sáez, Minister of Finances and Economy, Mr. Arturo Hoyo, Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs, my colleagues from CAF, Gian Piero Leoncini, Executive Vice President, Alejandra Claro, Executive Vice President, Gabriel Perpetuo, Finances Vice President of CAF, Vergara, Executive Director of Pro Panama, Javier Carrizo, General Manager of the National Bank of Panama, my colleague Lucia Mesa, representative of CAF in Panama, all ambassadors, excellencies, and representative of international organizations credited in the Republic of Panama, directors of industry, investors of Panama, businessmen, businesswomen, special guests, media, and I also want to greet those who are following us online. Again, thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here because we have two purposes in today's conference. First, we want to share with you the details of the activities that will be held in the International Financial Forum. And as you saw, it will be hosted on January 28th and 29th. This year's version will be a little bit different. We will have some activities on the 27th and some other on the 30th, which we will give you more details later. But this forum column is calling heads of state, government, representative of multilateral organizations, decision makers. It is a space for reflection and analysis, but it's also a space to design real actions for 2026. Next year, we want to demand the most important projects that will drive financial growth in Latin America and the Caribbean next year. The main question this year was how to retake growth. That was the main question of our finances report of the year 2024. So the question now is how to position the region in the global stage. With the different geopolitical and financial adjustments, how can the region position themselves? The second purpose of today's conference is to share with you the strategy that will guide the work of CAF in the next 4 years, 2025 through 2029. This is a document we built together with the national government, with national society, with businessmen, with academia, and with civil society. My colleagues Andres Zamora and Maria Mesa will deep dive a little bit more. I just want to tell you how we are looking at the region in the global stage. The first thing I would do is that the first thing I would say is that 2 centuries ago, here in Panama, first with the letter of Jamaica, and then with the bicentennial, and I want to thank the Chancellor's office, Javier and Carlos, for all their hard work. And next year we're going to be partners in the bicentennial. So it's a great opportunity because Bolivar described Panama as the ideal stage for meetings to discuss. That's why the forum somehow gathers that spirit for inspiration. Panama is the ideal place to answer those questions of the region. Society and life is marked for two things, uncertainty and unbalance. Uncertainty seems to dominate global trends. And we also see that the r- trust is stuck. That seems to be the pattern that determines global pulse. And actually, that elevated uncertainty was the main reflection and deliberations of the whole meetings 3 weeks ago in Washington. The Monetary Fund presented the growth of uncertainty and the stock of the levels of trust. That's why when we host this forum in Panama and we invite all industries, is to work on that trust to reduce those gaps of uncertainty. And Cristalina Georgieva mentioned the phrase that is relevant today. We are better than we expected, but worse than what we need. And we call that in CAF the glass half full or half empty in Latin America. But what do we mean? We have a growth of maybe 3.3, 3.2 this year at the global level. The region has grown approximately 2%, and that could be seen as glass half full, but it's not enough. So in the glass half full, we have some improvements in global coordination. If we look at the last 4 years, right after the pandemic, we responded as however we could, and Panama made a great effort for consolidating the post-pandemic to continue growing in a sustainable way. And we have seen the participation of the private sector. We have seen how the resilience of the private sector is aiming for growth and digitalization. But it's actually being less severe than what we expected. And yesterday, we saw the picture of President Trump and Prime Minister Xi Jinping from China about a tariffs agreement. And that gives us a little bit of certainty. We also saw improvements in financial conditions. We've seen an important recovery in the financial indicators. And actually, this year, we saw one of the biggest investments, 15 billion euros investment recently. And actually, for 3 years, we were consolidated as the biggest investor in Latin America. So we have been able to establish more trust in the region. And now the glass half empty, this is what we have to discuss next year. There are five great unbalances. The first unbalance has to do with the economy and is the slow down growth of Latin America. And it's not been only in the last decade. It's a circular problem in Latin America and the Caribbean. Maybe the World Bank showed this work recently, saying that Latin America didn't lose a decade in the 80s, but lost a century, the 20th century. Why? Because they grew less than the rest of the region, than the rest of the world. That is compiled in a book recently published by the Minister of Tax from Uruguay. And the title of that book is The Takeoff. And it's called The Takeoff because there are ways to reignite Latin America's growth. And he said that Uruguay took 100 years to recover. And that is perfectly valid to be used as an example in all countries of Latin America. So that is the first imbalance we have in front. That is due to falls in investment, falls in productivity, but also in informality. And let's look at this slide. In Latin America, there is 30% informality, Uruguay and Chile, and even Bolivia and Guatemala. Informality is an expression, and if we see it every day, it's an accumulation of non-savings. It's a sacrifice of adult adulthood, and it's not having health, having to pay out of pocket for your health. And that payment generates pressure on the poor. We can distribute this data like this. The expense in informality and health, there's an increase of 11.2% growth in poverty, which means we are creating formal employment but informal health. So we have to balance that growth. And that is with more investment, with more mobilization. And this is one of the main challenges of the forum. We want to look at ourselves in the mirror. We want to see that growth and see how we can start the engines for financial growth in Latin America and the Caribbean. The third unbalance is the demographical challenge. If you see, this is decreasing everywhere in the world, and Latin America is not the exception. What does it mean? We have 25 years left before this rate becomes negative to solve the problems of inequality in poverty. So this has been one of the keys for growth in productivity. We have 40% of the population under 28 years old, but we have 20 million people who don't work and not study in Latin America. 20 million. That is a huge challenge we have with them. That's why we launched recently in New York the idea of the Future Bank. And I want to thank the social team from the bank to take $5 billion in the next 5 years to help 50 million boys and girls in Latin America to have a better future. And this is work done with the private sector and the government. So we have to make the most of the time we have remaining, which is approximately 25 years. And the fourth unbalance is reconnecting citizenship with democracy. There's a great loss of trust in democracy, in institutions. And we want to grow in development, but with democracy. That's easier said than done. And we can see this around the world. Latin America, it's a region of freedom and democracy. So we have to consolidate that democracy. We have to strengthen citizen participation in decision making, and that implies monitoring very closely those levels of trust. An energy transition and a digital transition. In energy, we have a lot of opportunities in the region. It's a region that can grow in minerals and metals. It's a region that can grow using natural gas as a transition energy to reduce poverty, to reduce the fiscal gap. We can use minerals and metals to add more value to the digital transition. There's no possible to have a digital transition without energy transition. And we also have to use metals and minerals. And Latin America has that leadership position, as well as industry. All of these transitions, together with the imbalances, is what we want to discuss next year in the forum. So the main reflection, to be a world player, we have to consider Latin America as a solution. And let me give you a message from the bank. First, this bank was born in 1968, in February of 68, 57 years ago, as a subregional Andean corporation with a vision of the founders and a commitment of my predecessors to transform it in the bank of the region. And that is what we have been doing till 68 till today. And I talked to the Mexican ambassador and the Secretary of Economy of Mexico. We said next year is going to be our 35th anniversary of Mexico's contribution to CAF. Mexico was the first country to join us to transform it from an Andean bank into a bank of Latin America and the Caribbean. And 2 days ago, while in Mexico, we also subscribed to the Santa Lucia agreements. We were the last bank to subscribe. We also invited, because the bank is not only growing in Latin America, but Central America. We are pleased to announce that Guatemala is also joining the bank. Honduras, El Salvador, Costa Rica, the Dominican Republic, and the growth of the Caribbean islands. This will give us the opportunity of talking about integration in Panama with a lot more strength, with a lot more action. And I also want to recognize the ambassador of Spain for the bet they placed on the bank. Thanks to Spain's contribution, not only 20 years ago with capital, but the recent capitalization. And the bank has been getting stronger. And we can see that in the credit scores. We see the growth of total assets, liquid assets, and the consolidated portfolio. The bank has grown 30% in the last 4 years, thanks to the leadership of my colleagues and teamwork. And of course, all of this is translated in better scores. We have been consolidated as the biggest unsovereign emitter of Latin America and the Caribbean. We can see the improvements in the credit scores as well. And this means better financial services for the private sector in Latin America and the Caribbean, and better financial services for the countries of the region. And my second message for today is to present to you this plan, this idea, CAF as an ally for Panama's development. I've been living in this country for 4 years, and I have been very welcomed. I brought my daughters and my wife. We've been living together in Panama since day one, and we have been welcomed as family. And we have Lucia Mesa, also a representative. She has been linked to Panama for many years. She knows Panama really well. And today she will give us the main keys of the country's strategy. So I want to remind you a few things. First of all, it's been 28 years of CAF in Panama, 28 years working together with the country. Yesterday, with President Molino, we went to Juan Diaz plant. It's the most modern of Central America. It's a water treatment facility in which we are actively committed in its funding. Most of, we have invested $7.5 billion in Panama in the last 28 years. Our offer is to deliver that or half of that in the next 4 years. We want to place $3.5 billion in Panama for investment. That is the commitment we are taking with you today. And Lucia will give you more details. Our strategy has all types of access that reflect dialogue with the government. So we're about to celebrate 30 years in Panama in 2027. And we are building a hub in Ovarrio. This is the biggest construction site that the bank is funding right now. We're going to have a world-class hub in Panama, which will allow us to have not only to have a world-class office for the executives that are going to be traveling all over Latin America working. But the most important is that this building will be a strategic node and a strategic node for coordination. You will see CAF directors very often here, but it will also be an opportunity for the ministers of commerce, ministers of culture, to promote coordination of governments in Latin America and the Caribbean. In this hub, having the support of 900 specialists throughout Latin America, we're going to make our dream of coming together a reality. That's why working together with you, I want to thank Chancellor Martinez for his support and President Molino because they have owned the idea of the forum. And if it wasn't for President Molino's leadership, we wouldn't have the level of confirmation for 2026. And we are aiming to exceed the goal we set at the beginning of this year. So I want to close by saying that if Panama is doing well, the region does well. And of course, the bank will do well. So we will have to continue working together in coordination to achieve that dream of integration that we have in Panama. Thank you very much for being with us today. Thank you very much for your opening words. And now I want to invite to the stage Javier Martinez, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Panama. Good morning. I want to thank you for the opportunity you're giving me today because today is one of the very few occasions in which I can speak as a regular citizen. So, with the permission of all authorities, authorities, I will follow protocol. That was a great presentation. Please send it to me because I respect copyright, but it really helps me when I go to Asia and Europe. So please do send it to me. Sergio, you talked about two things, the unbalances, and I completely agree with you, but I want to dedicate some time to two of those. Security. The biggest threat to our democracy in the region is insecurity. The biggest threat to our democracy is organized crime and illegal trafficking. Don't forget that. And when it comes to informality, when we were in the middle of a campaign, President Molino, he was still running, but he came with us and we went to these places where people said he was that I was not going to be a chancellor, and I talked about informality, and that is an issue. So as a country, we have to reduce little by little. It won't be easy, but we need a fiscal base and the capability of the state to respond to these problems. But that increases exclusion and inequality and poverty. That is an issue that, in my opinion, is due to the lack of education. But this could affect the institutional base of the country, and that is when populism can flourish. And finally, it's an obstacle for institutional development and the modernization of the country. So I want to thank you. I want to thank you for being an important key part of the forum next year. But I'm wearing two hats today. Today I'm a financist and I'm economist, but also a diplomat. So I want to say that I will try to be more precise today because as a diplomat, a word misexplained could cause chaos. And as an economist, a wrong number can also cause chaos. So thank you, Sergio, and thanks to all the workers of CAF, dear ambassadors, authorities, vice ministers. It is an honor to address all of you on behalf of the President. I am sure that this will be one of the most important events in the region next year. Panama in 2026 will be the epicenter of a diplomatic agenda, and it's very important. And I'm referring to the Financial Forum. We are hosting a series of events which will finish with the assembly and possibly with a summit of presidents to celebrate the 200th anniversary of the Congress. An anecdote. If you allow me to step outside of the protocol just to share this anecdote, I think this was in 2021 when we started listening in our circles, or in my circle, that I heard your name, Dr. Sergio Diaz Granado, Congressman, Minister of Commerce and Trade of Colombia, and Vice Minister of Industrial Development, to be the new president of CAF. From that very first moment, of course, in Panama, we felt great relief because CAF was just coming out of a moment of instability. And you have proven right to those who chose you. And of course, your presidency has been determinant for the success of CAF in Panama and in the region. I wanted to dedicate some words to you. Thank you for everything you do for the region and for my country. Dear friends, as a Minister of Foreign Affairs of Panama, and on behalf of the government and our President, Jose Molino, I am pleased to welcome you to the official launch of the 2026 International Financial Forum for Latin America and the Caribbean. Our President, who has the capacity of putting nice phrases together. We call him the voice of Latin America, and the chancellors of the region call him that as well. In this event, promoted by CAF, we will talk about certain topics to position the region in the global stage: macroeconomy, investment, infrastructure, tourism, energy, AI. And it will be important to reflect about what you just mentioned. And I love that these topics have an agenda. In the last few years, Panama has become one of the countries with the highest growth in Latin America, with rates that exceed the regional average, even after the pandemic. Panamanians can agree to do great things. In 1994, 4 years after the invasion, we had a chancellor who is now a president. And he talked to the current government back then to give us a constitutional title, the 14th, which created the Panama Canal Authority with political independency, administrative, and many additional conditions. That decision was led by the then Chancellor, Jose Raúl Molino, now the elected president, and the former president, Ernesto Pérez Valladares. Explain this to all Panamanians that the conditions for Panama to have a positive financial shock, long lasting, and is what we have been experiencing in the 21st century till the pandemic. Significant growth, exceeding the region's average with extremely, extremely good numbers. Therefore, Panamanians understand that we had a great mission when we received the canal, and we managed to exceed all expectations. Today, the former chancellor, Molino, is now president of the republic, and everything they are promoting with their government is for the purpose of creating a second positive financial long-lasting shock. That's why the reforms in the social security are happening. That's why he has a determination not to give in to blackmailing from certain groups. And that's why the purpose of building infrastructure for both the canal and the state is there. Of course, with multilateral support. Th- According to the IDB and the World Bank, Panama has sustained a growth from 5 to 7%, driven by investment such as real estate, banking, and financial services, also technology and telecommunications, tourism, energy, both traditional and renewable, in health with hospitals and private clinics. And in the Panama Canal, it increased the income of the country. That was part of the shock that was created by the end of last century. We have created new routes for trade, establishing our position as a logistic and financial hub with more than 180 maritime routes and more than 1,000 ports. Panama is bringing commercial flow that represents 5% of world trade. This is in addition to Colón's free trade zone, one of the most important in the hemisphere. The expansion of Tocumen's International Airport, which is now getting small, is considered the hub of the Americas because of the emblematic investment. We also have multinational companies that are attracting more than 170 international enterprises. And thanks to the Panama Canal incorporation to Mercosur, we now have the interests of many multinationals from Asia and South America. This opens opportunities for global trade in many aspects: energy, bulk, containers. All of this complemented with special financial conditions and modernization to receive foreign investment, which has allowed us to have an open investment that is connected with capital markets. And that is something that the President Molino is committing to gain trust in Panama. He did it with bravery, and I agree with him. And this is the government of the private industry. That's why there are reforms, pro investment, and digitalized processes, and additional investments in industry, tourism, which will improve competitiveness in our country. Also, collaboration between government and industries with respect, mutual respect, will create the greatest alliance for the country's development. And let it be clear, this is not an anti-union government because we respect the right to unionization. This country has more than 400 unions. I haven't done the math, so maybe CAF can help us, but I'm sure that per capita we must have the highest numbers of unions in the world. Growth in tourism is unprecedented. We are appearing in international campaigns. The country is becoming year after year the stage of all types of conventions. Right now, we're hosting the Robotics Olympics in Amador. And something we cannot miss is ecotourism. We have a Minister of Environment that feels it and lives it, and we are now becoming an attraction. Thanks, Minister, thanks to you, and thanks to the Vice Minister, Carlos Garabang, because we connect the oceans and is declared UNESCO's World Heritage just a few months ago. So thanks, Minister. Thank you, Carlos. The tourism sector represents 10% of our IDB, of our GDP. We need, Mr. President, digital transformation and the adoption of AI. Because, Doctor, the commitment for development through an innovation and digitalization strategy is for most of Panamanians to aspire to the democratic use of AI, especially in education, health, and customs. There is a Spanish philosophist, and I quote him because he's Vasque, Sabater, and he says that he's not worried about AI, he's worried about human stupidity. The AIG is working in artificial intelligence pilots to prevent diseases, for optimizing logistic routes, and for projects for public administration, aiming to position the country as a region for innovation. In sustainable and renewable energy, we are regional leaders. In November of last year, we generated 100% of renewable sources. We are one of the very few countries that are carbon negative. We have hydroelectric plants, and we are aiming to invest more in wind and solar parks. We also want to continue implementing decarbonization strategies. Through the 2030 Energy Plan, we promote energy efficiency, electromobility, and the installation of wind and solar parks. Law 6 of year 2024 incentivizes fiscally investment in clean technology, reduces dependency on fossil fuels, and positions Panama as an energy transition model of the region. And I have my friend Fabio here from Colombia. We have to make electrical interconnection a reality. Ambassador, Mr. President Molino has been clear. He wants that project to be built before his administration is over. Mining has generated a debate, and the president has had a lot of tolerance. We respect those who defend their position of no to mining. But the mining discussion is being one of the biggest political challenges in the recent times. But we have to reflect regulation, exploring international standards for green mining, and a fair community participation in the richness of that potential exploit if Panamanians decide to move forward. We need, at this point in our history, an obligation to Panama to list some of the activities in which the role of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs facilitated the flow between Panama and all hemispheres. The signature of multilateral agreements for investments will promote additional investment from Asia, Europe, and direct participation of the Chancellor's offers and ambassadors to the UN, SICA, and ECLAC to position Panama as a logistic and digital and financial hub, explaining our reality. I recognize the support of Italy, France, Greece. I think I'm missing one country. I'm missing one. Let's see if I remember. For Panama to get out of the money laundering list, especially Spain. And I'm missing one country. My apologies if I'm forgetting, because there were four countries from Europe who defended us: Spain, Italy, France. They have a new ambassador, but it's not that one. I can't remember the country. And as I traveled through Europe's capitals, and I write everything down, so be careful with what you say to me, because everything will be published once I'm out of office. So I got to Europe, to the Chancellor's office, and in protocol they told me in France and in Spain and Italy. Italy was the other country. They said, we've heard good things from you, from the Morocco chancellors. Therefore, Sergio and dear friends, the attraction of new companies to our country, with everything that we're doing, it's evident we are attractive to all entrepreneurs and investors. We're going to put the conditions so that the new government in 2029 receives a country in much better conditions than when we received it. I don't want to take any longer. I think I want to close with some inspiration, as I always do, and this is dedicated to CAF for their very important role in the continent. And I also want to recognize the work of my predecessors from all governments, because all of them have contributed somehow for Panama to progress. So I have to say, with pride, in the 21st century, no other government have had the determination, as we call it popularly, to grab the bull by the horns and face the problem, like President Molino has. CAF is a beam of light for regional development. It's more than a bank. It's a collective asset for our countries to make dreams come true and to build a better future. In your hands, you will find Panama. It's the bridge between action, and I like that because I hate bureaucracy, and it's the bridge between hope and real actions. We're, CAF is also driving projects that transform and inspire the people to believe in their own potential. And they prove that prosperity, shared prosperity, is not a utopia, but it's a possible destination. So I want to thank you that for the second year in a row, the CAF Financial Forum will be hosted in our country. So let's keep it like that always. And that financial forum in which we will talk about different problems or realities should become the financial epicenter in Panama. And let's not make this only a meeting, but let's talk about innovation. And cooperation will be the voice that will set the compass for a more fair and stronger and more democratic Latin America. Panama, again, is the bridge, port, and door of the world, especially of the Americas. We're open to dialogue. And with the drive of CAF and our president, development only flourishes when the people work for the same ideal, the well being of everybody. Thank you all. Thank you very much, Mr. Minister. And we have a lot of information to share with you about the forum. So I invite Andres Zamora to the stage, Director of Communication of CAF. Hello, good morning, everyone. It is my pleasure to see this auditorium full of people. To us in CAF, we are very excited. We have been working really hard for today's presentation. And I want to greet all authorities present, Chancellor and Minister. I want to thank you for all your support. We will continue working together on this forum. And I want to take a minute to share with you some news we received yesterday. And it's that our executive president was named by the Times Magazine as one of the top 100 leaders in the Titans category. The only Latin American, and is sharing the same category with the Pope and King Charles. So this is a great recognition for us as a bank. So why are we hosting this forum? In CAF, we see the region as a region of solutions. We began with this initiative with the perception and the idea that there was no space for discussion about the needs and the great challenges we had. And to our surprise, we had thousands of people that shared this conviction and who supported us in the 2025 edition. In 2025, we learned a lot. We realized that it was necessary for the region to have these type of spaces. There was no space where we can come together, private and public sector, academia, leadership, everybody from the region to come together. So it is essential to have these types of spaces and conditions. Another lesson that we drive is the need for the private sector and the public sector to work together in projects that help us drive development and improve the quality of lives of all Latin Americans and Caribbeans. And finally, was the need to keep this forum in the calendar of global events. We want this date by the end of January to be a fixed date to discuss the main topics. We can definitely find in Panama a gathering point. Why Panama? Obviously, we have a great hotels in Panama to host this type of high level events. We have a unique convention center, the best in the region, which will allow us to have versatility in spaces for networking. And we are the hub of the Americas. Panama is a connection for the entire region. So we want to thank COPA for always helping us organizing this forum. They are a great ally. So the question is not why Panama, but why not Panama? Some data I want to share with you about the event in 2025, January of 2025. We received more than 2,000 attendees in person in a 2 day event. We received more than 150 leaders from around the world with more than 50 panels. We had a significant online presence with 350,000 views, and we had strong media partners that somehow help us amplify this forum throughout the entire region. This year, we thought, okay, if we already hosted a 2 day event, why not host a 4 day event? Somehow, we are thinking of a Lollapalooza of ideas. So we will begin on January 27 with the CAF Festival Voices for our region. Then on January 27, 28, and the 29, we'll host the forum. And on the 29th and the 30th, we're going to do a business roundtable. The CAF Festival Voices for Our Region is an ideas festival. The objective of this festival is to promote artists, people linked to culture, to look at our reality, the current reality of the region through different actions such as music, lyrics, originary people, and their impact in our culture, contemporary vision, and design with purpose. So we want to have a vision of our current state, but also with our ancestors. We want to look at the narrative to tell our story. So this will be a very interesting space, which will be hosted in the Panama Convention Center on the 27th. Later, we will give you additional details, but we are very happy to host that as the first activity of the week full of activities. Again, the main question for this forum is how to position Panama or the region in the global stage. That will be on the 29th and the 30th, and we're aiming to have more than 2,500 attendees in person. With this forum, we aim to create this gathering point between three great sectors. We have authorities from the government, we have multilaterals, we have business leaders and businessmen that promote the private sector, leaders of opinion. Of course, they help us spread all of this information. We want these three main groups to have a productive conference. And we want to continue driving this type of conferences with all industries to define the agenda, which will be the appetizer. Many of these topics came out of the meetings we've been holding. Things like investment, financial perspective for 2026, public private cooperation, private sector as growth engine, energy transition, of course, that is an essential topic. Artificial intelligence is also a transversal topic. sustainable mining for the responsible development of the region. All of this can be found in a site we are launching today. I will give you the website once it is ready. In CAF, development banking is used to promote the region as a platform to connect with countries and regions and elevate the presence of Latin America in the global context. Another focus of the forum will be generating discussion spaces with regions and countries such as the European Union and the US, Japan, and representatives from the Middle East. We will have great discussions to strengthen the position of Latin America and the Caribbean. I want to talk to you about the people that is coming. Obviously, President Molino, like we said, we have to be grateful with President Molino because he's been an essential driver for this event. He has taken leadership for this forum, and he has allowed us to call leaders of the region that are still to be confirmed. But we can say that President Lula will be participating in the opening together with President Molino. They will both be opening the ceremony. President Luna will come with a delegation of businessmen. We will be hosting a Panama Brazil meeting. In previous months, we've held meetings in Brasilia to strengthen this visit, and we are very excited for that opening in this event. The administration of Panama has also managed not only to get President Lula, but also President Novoa. He is confirmed for this event. We will have his participation and also additional leaders of the region that we will continue to announce as soon as we get their confirmation. This will be an event with great leadership in Panama. We will also have special guests. You can see them on screen. We have Ricardo Hausman, Susan Seagal, Felipe Larraín, physicist Michio Kaku will be joining us and giving us a speech about the future of AI and human technology, his vision of philanthropy, and also Isabella Luxic. This list will continue growing and we will be announcing them through our social media. This is a forum that is very special because it has different formats. We will have a plenary session, and those who have been to the convention center, you can imagine it's a plenary session with the main presentations from the heads of state and leadership. We will have around 800 seats for in person attendees, but we will also have simultaneous presentations from different industries. And we will have also closed door discussions. This way, we can generate commercial alliances and these processes of knowledge that we need for the region to strengthen productivity. Networking is very important for this space. One of the main lessons is that this has become a date so that we can come together, do business, and generate opportunities. So, networking in this occasion is essential. We are designing specific spaces for networking, rooms specifically, and we will have a specialized staff which will be facilitating the networking. And we will also have an app that will be launched in November. You will be able to download it and schedule dates. This is cutting edge technology for this type of events. And once we launch this app, we invite you to download it and start using it because there's going to be a mass of attendees present, and that will facilitate the opportunities for additional meetings. The media are great allies of CAF. We have the best allies. We have CNN, We have Grupo Prisa, El País newspaper, which will be covering these events. We also have allies in Panama, such as La Estrella, Medcom, who are also in this room already. So we want to thank you for the support, for bringing this knowledge to the audience. And we also have media partners throughout the entire region. These are the main allies. We want you to know that all countries will be able to see this event. And this is the first time we're organizing a business roundtable. The objective of this business table is that as we develop the event in one wing, on the other wing, we will be hosting at least 150 buyers, not only from Latin America and the Caribbean, but also from the US, Canada, Europe, and Asia. They are currently signing up to participate. We will have 350 exports from the region. The idea is to not only reflect or discuss, but also make business and commercial partnerships. This will include industries such as agriculture, textiles, manufacturing, technology services, and chemicals. We are aiming to have approximately 4,025-minute meetings. This is some sort of speed datings where all participants can get the most. In 1 day and a half, you can have approximately what you do in 2 weeks in your country. If you haven't received this, please do let us know. We can give you additional information about the roundtable. We also have a QR code so you can sign up. You can come to the team and we will share anything with you because we want to see you there in that business meetings. Again, we've been traveling to 10 countries of the region with the CAF team, meeting in Central America and South America with different businessmen. But most of all, listening to your ideas, listening to your concerns. We also have some testimonies from businessmen, from workers, and participants that has told us what this means to them. I think this is an extraordinary opportunity to have a forum in which we will integrate and share many interests in Latin America. This is a great opportunity to increase dialogue. More people means more ideas. We are very excited to become that bridge for the new generation. That integration is very important. We can make business in the entire region. It's a great opportunity for businessmen of the region and the entire continent to come together and find new ways to connect. Very well. Here you can find additional information of the event. Scan this QR code. And like I said, we are a region that have what we never need. So this will be the space in which we show it to you. And we'll see you all in January. Thank you. Thank you very much for this information. Most definitely, this forum will be a space for dialogue and partnership for a better and inclusive sustainable development. And now I want to invite to the stage Mr. Joao Mendes Pereira, Brazil's ambassador in Panama. He will be sharing with us a few words. Good morning, everyone. First of all, I want to thank CAF. I want to thank their president, Sergio Diaz Granado, for their participation in this event and for organizing this amazing forum. I also want to greet Chancellor of Panama, Javier Martinez Sache, and all Panamanian authorities present. I also want to greet my friends, brothers, members of the Diplomat Party credited in Panama. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to highlight that the forum is a framework to put Latin America and the Caribbean in the discussions, in the financial, commercial discussions within this new international order. Why not Panama? It's a hub for excellence in Panama. It's the best place to host this event. I also want to thank, on behalf of my government, specifically Mr. President Luis Lula da Silva, for this forum in January. Together with the partners of Mercosur, we're going to bring an endless number of businessmen from all industries to help grow even more this integration between our countries. With this, we aim to strengthen regional coordination and promoting the position of the companies of the region, strengthening public private dialogue about challenges and opportunities for sustainable development and, and a productive transition in Latin America and the Caribbean. We want to welcome you to the second version of the forum. You can count on Brazil, the embassy, Mercosur, and all countries of Latin America and the Caribbean. CAF, you can count on us. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. And now it's the moment to present the country strategy CAF Panama 2025-2029, a document that reflects the shared vision between the Panamanian government, the private sector, multilateral organizations, and CAF to drive a more inclusive, sustainable, and innovative development. Before the presentation, I want to invite to the stage Emilio Uquillas, General Manager of Countries of CAF, for a brief introduction about the document. Thank you very much, Mr. Chancellor. Good day. Executive President, good day. Authorities, invited colleagues, vice presidents, and managers of CAF here present, and all attendees. I am very pleased to share with you the introduction of CAF in Panama. The CAF strategy overall, what we call the country strategy document, which some of you already have in your hands today, it's a summary of several elements that try to consolidate the path to follow in Panama's objectives or the objectives of the country members. Here we established the CAF capabilities on one side, the diagnostics that our team of economists built about different aspects such as economy and infrastructure that many countries have. And also CAF has proposed, as you can see in the document, a proposal for sustainable development that covers different elements that I want to share with you. So bringing these elements together, the government plan and the objectives of the country, CAF's capabilities and the diagnostics, this is what we call the country strategy document. Like the name says, it's a strategy of where we are proposing the country to support with our qualities so they can achieve their objectives. In addition, under the framework we established for the country, we go to a tactical level. That is a country program that is developed annually in perfect coordination with different sectors that demand our financial services and technical assistance. That's how we establish a short-term vision that is centered in a long-term vision, which will allow us to assess the effectiveness of the support that CAF is providing. Additionally, we have an operational level. which is done through the programs and a permanent dialogue with different sectors and different institutions. Those are our counterparts. There we can identify the need for technical assistance to implement what the country needs successfully. And here's a subtle difference in what I'm saying. What the country needs, not CAF, not what the CAF wants, but what the country needs, not with conditions, but with alliance. That's why in some internal dialogues, we say that we are we are building tailored solutions. Every country is different, therefore they need different solutions. All of this is centered in a strategic platform and a proposal for growth. And in the last few years, we have tried to be more green, more inclusive, but most of all, considering the consequences of the pandemic, trying to reactivate the economy. And we are not leaving aside in our proposal things like social aspects, which is essential for an inclusive growth. Obviously, infrastructure and digital infrastructure, like our president mentioned. Things like energy is vital for growth, to have more inclusive cities, to have more connected territories, like Lucia will mention. And we also didn't leave aside something essential for financial growth, and that is the macroeconomic stability, with the best tools for the needs of every country. And I want to mention one essential element, that is CAF financial management. It has allowed us to have risk scores to get access to global markets in the best conditions that allow us to bring resources to the region with the best financial conditions. With this background, now I want to invite my colleague Lucia Mesa to please tell us about this intersection we are proposing for Panama. Once we've had a dialogue with Panamanian authorities so that this doesn't stay in a CAF proposal, but it becomes a consensus. This was a characteristic that years ago we didn't consider. We had an internal operational document, but now it's become a public document for people to know where we are guiding the efforts in our institution in consensus with the country and according to the objectives of each country member. Thank you, and I'll give the floor to Lucia Mesa. Good day, everyone. It is a pleasure for me to address all of you to present a proposal for strategic action CAF for Panama year 2029. The calling of connectivity in CAF is born from its geological position thousands of years ago. This made possible the connection of ecosystems and facilitates till today the migration of species, being a natural corridor, and it's one of the reasons of its great biodiversity. Definitely, it's a unique place, and it's had a relevant role in the past. It has it in the present, and with the changes proposed by reglobalization and the challenges of biodiversity, will have in the future as opportunities to achieve a more inclusive development that allows efficiency and sustainable growth. The proposal of our actions for supporting the country is harmonized with the current administration plan and the vision for 2050 in the private sector and civil society. and the framework of the United Nations Framework for Sustainable Development in Panama that was recently formalized. Panama was one of the first countries in the 90s that supported the proposal of transformation in our institution from a Andean subregional bank to a development bank with presence in Latin America and the Caribbean. In 28 years, we've supported with $47 billion, financing programs and projects that have contributed to the transformation of the country. With a 78% of green action, with an impact of financial growth that exceeds the region's average, just like the Chancellor explained. As you can see also from the table, and we're celebrating today that during this period, Panama has achieved many things, one of which we can mention the consolidation of democracy, the sovereignty of its territory, an efficient administration of the canal, and the expansion of their services. The offer of great air connectivity through the hub of the Americas that brings together not only countries but offers more connectivities to intermediary cities. It's also have a stable and resilient macroeconomy, maintaining the degree of investment. It's recognized as a carbon negative country, and it's got great leadership. It offers financial international services, and it has a sustainable finances taxonomy that we have supported. It has great presence of multinational companies recognized globally. With this proposal of renewed commitment of CAF, we will continue to support the country with an offer of $3.5 billion. Our strategic action in Panama as a green bank for sustainable and inclusive development is divided in four pillars: regional integration, consolidation of services, inclusive growth, and transversal support. The first pillar includes actions for modernization and a better integration and efficiency of the services of the country. In the face of the changes in technology, we require an process to update technology to keep the highest standards for services, investments in new infrastructure, and supporting plans for the green transition in energy, digital, maritime, and air. Support for territory order to promote the country in investments. The biggest investments in Panama are concentrated in the canal, with services that provide a global reach that facilitate many companies in the region with real plans to expand these services in the next few years. The main challenge of the country will be to achieve more investment in the rest of the countries, in the rest of the provinces in the country, and have a more balanced development planning that connects provinces to the consolidated services in Panama City and the canal. Making the most of each industry in the country. Social consistency includes actions to make progress in basic quality services, expand the offer of housing, continue making progress in education to allow access to skills linked to the labor market in coordination with the requirements of private sector. Actions for water resources, efficiency in commercial management of waters to allow the reduction of losses and preserve water sources. Digital and electrical coverage the expansion of health coverage with the digitalization of services. The third pillar summarizes our support to the private sector through products and services that support strategic investments in the different sectors of the economy, great opportunities in the country to support innovation, and proposals of productive transformation such as tourism, agrotechnology, and modern services. We will continue supporting a great private investment for projects in infrastructure. We will also support small and medium companies through partnerships with local banking. As a sector that generates more employment in the country, we include the financial sector to continue participating in local markets to expand the supply of our offer. The environmental commitment leads the transformational actions we are proposing for green initiatives that we respond to with bank services, but also with third party resource mobilization. We will continue supporting institutional transformation with training. We have trained thousands of people in good practices and innovation of public administration, and we will continue facilitating and promoting technical exchange between peers in the region, emphasizing on gender equality, inclusion, and diversity, with crucial actions to close the gender gap, paying attention to the demographic crisis that we heard from this morning. One of the best attributes of the country is definitely its diversity. We will continue supporting initiatives that support the cultural strategy as an engine to drive development with high impact in sectors like tourism, education, and creative industries. Remember, arts brings us together and culture enriches us. We are committing to benefit spaces for community and contribute to the security and conservation of Panama as a territory of peace. With this proposal, we are also supporting the country's evolution to be a more competitive, sustainable, and inclusive territory so that their population can connect with better opportunities to improve their quality of life and continue offering spaces for foreign investments with greater connectivity. Through the calling of the International Forum in Panama that we are presenting today, we display the strengths of the country just like we visualized 200 years ago. We joined the Homania of Panama. We work tirelessly to celebrate the 30th anniversary of actions in the country to facilitate dialogue with real actions, but also in the entire region. More than an infrastructure in Panama with this proposal, we are here to offer our heart, our main asset, which is knowledge and the calling of our entire team to contribute to access to better life conditions of all Panamanians and the consolidation of a more diversified and more decentralized economy with a positive impact in the entire continent. We want to thank all partners who are here with us today. We also thank those who are with us online through all digital channels. You will be essential in the path to make all of these actions we're committing to possible. Panama is a lot of beautiful things, and we want you to enjoy the holidays next week. And thank you. Thank you on behalf of CAF. We want to thank those who are here with us, and we expect to see you here in Panama on the week of the 27th through January 30th of January through February 1st, in which we will be looking for solutions to the challenges we have. So get ready for 4 days of debate, ideas, and opportunities, and enjoy the rest of your day. And next, we want to invite the media present to come to the press conference. It will be hosted in the Venecia room. It's outside in the hall to the left. Thank you.